Welcome to Corporate Cafecito,
a Latin and business podcast where we share insights and strategies to help entrepreneurs and professionals thrive.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Corporate Cafecito. Yo soy Nayeli Suarez Guess.
Yo soy Carlos Butler Raleigh.
Today we have a dear friend of mine, someone who has inspired me throughout since forever. Her name is Olga. Welcome back. You actually heard from her before, but she is back because if you remember the first episode she was on, it was about financial education, talking about like where we need to be and a lot of generational wealth. Well, now she's going to give you the playbook of how to get there with her new book, which is, okay, it's called Rise, Build, tell me
it's called Rise, Embrace the Future You Can Build.
There.
Rise, embrace the future you can build.
And this is meant to, and I'm sorry to steal, you say what it's, but it's gonna change your lives. And the earlier you get it, the more impact it will have. So
we're all about changing lives.
Tell us about your book.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me again.
Course.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm here today because like you said, it's about not just understanding that, yes, we have to build wealth and also build financial resilience. It's how to do it, right? It's how to do it. And a lot of people want to be on that journey.
Yeah, todos tenemos las ganas.
Pero
we don't know how to do it.
Including myself, because when I was younger, I didn't know what I didn't know. And all I knew is that was sort of like that financial planning, being financially organized, knowing what I was doing was a world I wanted to enter.
That's amazing.
And I couldn't because I didn't know. But today I know. And today we're here because I think that if I could go back in life and talk to my younger self, my younger Olga self, I would say, okay, girl, this is what you're going to do. Like, this is the action plan. This is why you got to do it. Because at the end of the day, in like 5 years, you're going to see a difference within your wealth.
Right.
In 10 years, 20 years, and certainly by the time you get to retirement, you're going to either be, prepared, or unfortunately, you're going to go into a world of, maybe living a life of poverty.
Yeah.
Right?
Financial hurt, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. And you don't want that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, if we know what we know, let's share this information.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I admire about you, Olga, is that you see a problem and you want to do everything you can to be a part of the solution. And I think why that matters even more is because we know that underrepresented communities, particularly Latino and Black communities, they reinvest in their communities, right? And so what you are building is, and what you're providing people, and I'm sure we'll obviously go into this a little bit more, is it's not just a blueprint for personal financial success, but that pays dividends, right? And so it not just to your own inner circle, but obviously the communities that we live and work in. So
it makes a big difference if you're on the right path. As early as you graduate from college, as early as you are out of high school, because some people go on to trades and whatnot, to get started.
Absolutely.
To get started and go in there with your eyes wide open. I know what I'm looking for. Besides having a great career, besides having a great paying job, I know that I'm looking for a certain benefit here because I found out about it. So let me get at it.
Yeah.
I don't like to hear when people go into these positions, no matter where you're at, I talk to them, they'll say something like, yeah, well, I've been here 4 or 5 years, 6, 7, even 20 years, I've heard. They're like, I've never participated in the retirement program. I'm like, what? And there was an employer match. I'm like, you left shiny gifts every 2 weeks at the table.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I love that your focus is on the 401k, right? And like that retirement, because I think oftentimes I think the first barrier, and I'll say it from growing up and maybe my parents, I'm saying my parents' barrier, but like, ¿cómo puedo ahorrar si no tenemos dinero? Right? Like, and I think if we start thinking, if you just put $10 in or put like just something in later on, it will be more.
Right.
So the importance of getting in early. And so that's part of what you're teaching too, right? Like get in there early because it'll grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, look, sometimes people will say, no me alcanza, porque yo sé que hay gastos, there's a lot of expenses. But at the same time, the other thing that we also teach separately is, this is through our fintech app, by the way, Sheena, it's completely free, no credit card needed. You can go in there, register, and it gives you a budget. Immediately after you register,
It
you get your
does. I
first
have
budget.
mine. Yes.
And now it's available in English and Spanish as of last
Amazing.
week. It's fresh off, it's
Congrats.
amazing. Yeah. And that is because, you know, I knew the importance of doing that. People that are making the decision sometimes are not the people that are maybe even going through the app. It could be somebody back at home, and it could be somebody back at home that only speaks Spanish.
Yeah.
Right.
So we decided, you know what? Let's make sure that we have an ongoing dialogue and that everybody knows what's going on by making this financial wellness app English and Spanish. So it starts with that budget,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Now we know, now we see the budget, now we see what the income that's coming in, the expenses we have, but then also the recommended savings.
Yeah.
Meaning you're going to see that budget. It's going to recommend you, okay, if you're in housing, this is more or less what it should be costing you. It's an estimate, of course.
Sure.
But it gives you an idea of like, oh, I should be saving X amount of dollars like a week, whether or not you even get an employer match. Because sometimes you go into these retirement programs and there's no employer match. And then I've heard people say, well, I'm not going to do it. I'm like, look, you're not punishing the employer. You're punishing yourself in the
Right.
future.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
And there's so many tax benefits to
Absolutely.
participating in the retirement program.
Yeah.
When you wrote this book, who was your intended audience?
You know, my intended audience is basically anyone, right, that is beginning to prime themselves to go into the workforce. I want them to go in there with their eyes wide open. I don't want to hear that they got there, that they didn't know how to save, and then somebody comes across, well, how long have you been here? 5 years, 7 years? I haven't. Like, this is not. Our community cannot go through that. No one should be going
Right.
through
Sure.
that. They
Right.
should go. Part of, I think, going into the workforce before you go into it is going in, not just having researched that job, the salary that you want. You know, you also have to go in there with your eyes wide awake. When I get there, I'm not just going to make money. Here's how I'm going to grow my money.
Yes.
That's very important. That goes hand in hand. It's like you're wearing the left shoe but not the right shoe when you get to work. No,
Right.
you got to wear both shoes.
Right. Because the 401k and retirement plans are part of your compensation package. That 2 to 6% that they match, it's part of your money.
The HSAs, I mean, like there's so many other things that you could do from a tax liability perspective that, to your point, it's like some people are like, well, I don't have the money. And it's like, well, no, actually, you could use that very same money that you have to potentially make you or save you some of that money so that you're then able to use that on the other end, right?
And I'll say this, you know, a lot of people will continue to say, es que no tengo el dinero, I don't have that money. The truth of the matter is you're going to have to take a hard look at your budget, especially those variable expenses that
Absolutely.
you sometimes have. Okay, do we really need 4 streaming channels?
Right. Right.
Do we really need to go out to the restaurant every single weekend?
Right.
I know we work very hard. I know we do. And then we say, pues, how am I going to work so hard? ¿Cómo voy a trabajar tan
And I don't
duro?
have fun.
And then I'm not going to have some fun.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not
Right.
saying don't have fun. I'm just saying don't have fun every single weekend.
Right.
You know what? Cook at home.
And it's temporary.
And-
Ideally.
but because you know what? Because at the end of the day, you're doing that because there's a strategy in place.
Absolutely.
Hay una estrategia.
Right.
Right? We're going to make sure that we have enough money to save in these investment vehicles at work, whether that be a 401k or a 403b if you're in the nonprofit space. And you're going to make sure that you pay yourself, you get that additional compensation if there's an employer match. And even like I said, if there's not, you still put that money in there.
Right.
Right? So how much do you put in there?
Right.
That's another question, right, that I get. Well, look, the goal is to put in anywhere between 10 to 15% of your annual gross
Earnings,
salary,
yeah.
right? That's what it is. Some people will say, well, listen, I can't do all of that. And I understand. So can we at least do 3%?
Start somewhere.
Please, and even if it comes at a little bit of a sacrifice where you pull back on other expenses, do it. I
Right.
promise you, this is going to make a big difference. You'll see it in 5 years. You'll see it invested. You'll see it compounding with interest. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of myself. You'll look back and be like, I'm so happy I did that.
Yeah.
I
I
kick
promise you.
myself all the time because I took out money to buy my house. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm like, well, I had the money there, but then I'm like, oh, I should have just left it and borrowed more, like, because the rates were low when I bought
Yeah.
my house. And I'm like, I should have just left it there.
There's some personal decisions that you'll make. I mean, you didn't take out the money to, I hate to say this, go pay for a quinceañera,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Which has no, I mean, once it's done, it's done.
It's
It's a sunk,
done.
it's a
Yeah.
sunk,
Right. Some
Sunk cost,
costs.
yeah.
sunk
Yeah,
cost,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's it. You had the opportunity to at least buy a home. So we'll make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, okay? The thing is to really talk to somebody before you make those decisions. At least for you, your home's probably appraised.
Yeah.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
it's like so you're
Yeah,
gonna
you
be
made,
fine.
you made a good investment.
You made it, yeah. So it's not. That's not. Trust me. I've
mean, I'm
heard
not
of
giving you
other kinds of
financial advice,
why
but
people took out the money. But even in that instance, if you can, borrow against your loan. I mean,
Yeah.
take a loan against your 401k, your
Yeah.
403b. That's your best bet. Pay yourself back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
That's a
paying
good
yourself
point.
back with interest.
Right.
What I find fascinating too is in your day job as an entrepreneur, you get to see this on the other side often, right? With when companies are making these kinds of decisions about the types of programs that they are going to be offering, maybe not necessarily to this degree or specifically about that, but you have also been around enough to know kind of like how these decisions are made on that end. And so you are very well versed with some of the obviously levers that people can pull to be able to do some of this stuff, which I think only makes what you're providing in your book even more richer.
I've seen so in my daily professional work, I do help out CFOs, CEOs, whoever's in charge of the retirement program at the company, and we will go through a process that we need to go through, and it's just not just myself and the individual. We bring in the other teams that have to be brought in for every single plan that's out there, right? To make the right choices for that company. But we're always looking to make sure that whatever we are proposing for that company is something that is going to provide the greatest benefit to
Yeah.
the participant and their beneficiaries.
So Olga, are you doing trainings for the companies with people,
we-
or how are you?
So typically, what happens is with companies, we get engaged as their investment fiduciary, and then we work alongside.
Sorry, what's a fiduciary?
And a fiduciary is so basically in the world of the financial industry, everybody's known as a financial advisor if you work some kind of work in terms of advising, right? On your portfolios. But under the financial advisor sort of like umbrella, there are two kinds of financial advisors. The first one is a broker, which basically you would be calling because you're asking them to help you get into the stock market, trying to help them, like they're trying to help you buy some kind of stock. Sellers, right? And some of those individuals sometimes end up also working within organizations or with individuals, but understand that they don't have the same high level of responsibility to you once that transaction is closed.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay? The investment fiduciary has the legal responsibility to do what is in your best interest and will probably be working with you on an ongoing basis.
And there's probably a level of due diligence too
There's
that is
definitely
different.
more due diligence there that we have to abide by. And we also have to make sure that there are no conflicts of interest when we are putting together an investment lineup that is being offered through a retirement program at a company or organization.
Yeah, I want to touch up on something that you said that you both have touched up on. So, about the retirement funding and kind of borrowing. So, at one of the companies that I worked at, I won't mention the name, but we went through and we did an analysis in terms of the demographic background of the people that were actually borrowing the most against their 401k.
I would guess it's us.
And that we're not actually paying it back within the 1 year timeline. and it was overwhelmingly Latinos, and then behind that, African American employees, and predominantly women as well. Which is why I think it's really, really crucial what you are doing with your book and what you're doing today. Now, what we did with that information is we wanted to go specifically, and we didn't know who we did. We just knew kind of like general demographics. But what we knew is that we had to go back, for example, to our ERGs to make sure that we were doing more education around what it means to borrow against your 401k and what are maybe other avenues that you could potentially use, or that financial deadline, right? So I love everything that you're doing because as a business leader, I saw what that impact was for boots on the ground for the people, but you are looking to sort of stop the bleeding, right, before it even starts.
And to your point, so we're doing this obviously with the leadership,
Yeah.
right, at these organizations, and then we're being told, okay, now we need you to go tell or talk to the employees here that still are not participants of the plan and the participants of the plan of how this works.
Absolutely.
So this is what we've been doing well, me specifically since 2011, right? So we've done this for schools, we've done this for colleges, we've done this for hospitals, nonprofits, small businesses. We've done it for basically, all of our clients. And what we have found out is that obviously the participants are obviously interested in knowing how these retirement programs work, but sometimes they have more specific questions, such as the ones that you just mentioned. Now, what we're trying to do right now is just through this book give you the high level understanding of how it works.
Sure.
And that's fine. And then we also use Sheenix, right, on a side, which is free, like I said. You can go in there and you can actually, start to find a little bit more about those retirement, sometimes items that you're wondering about. And that's English and Spanish, like I said.
Great.
And then also we make ourselves available. If there is a question regarding that so that you can make the best decision, we'll help walk you through
Right.
that. Yeah.
Okay, so you're also going to be doing programs for education, right? For schools or maybe intercepting parents earlier. What's the work that you're doing there? Because I think it's really, I think about our financial education and it starts when we're little.
Yeah.
But also, we mirror what our parents do.
Absolutely.
So walk me through some of the programs you're doing there.
Look, the common theme among all of this stuff, whether that be through the book, right, or that be through this other work that we're doing with schools and universities, is that we are helping prime people, which is not something that's really being done effectively out there. It's not. Because I keep hearing the same question. So along the way, they're not getting the information that they need.
Right.
So we decided we're going to be doing sessions where schools would be able to call us in if they're like elementary schools, even if they're like high schools. So this is where we would show up and talk to the parents about what the financial responsibilities needs will be, even if they're going to a public school.
Right.
There's still lots of expenses associated with that.
Absolutely.
So we go to the schools and we start helping them with their own personalized budget. So we have these workbooks in English and Spanish, because everything that we're doing right now is in English and Spanish. Even the book that we have that for the retirement program is on its way to becoming available in Spanish as well.
Great.
So that's very important. So we're collapsing that language barrier, and we are trying to get early on in the pipeline, right? Where we're actually a lot of the people that are showing up are the moms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It's not exclusively moms. These are parents that are making a lot of the decisions, money decisions at
Yeah.
home. And we're having the conversation. And then I've said, you guys are the directors of finance at home.
Yeah.
They're like,
They
no,
are.
no, we're not. I go, no, you
The
are.
yeah, they are.
CFOs, yeah.
You are.
So
Yeah.
when I did some work with Univision, and I remember it was back in like the 90s, early 90s, and I remember one of the things we talked about was this advertisement for washing machines. And we were like, oh, they were always geared towards the women. And they're like, but the men make the finance decisions. And I'm like, no, they don't. She says, ay viejo, ocupa una lavadora. And then he'll go and he'll buy her the washer. But she initiated all of this. So I think in our community, oftentimes, like, and I'll speak for my household, my dad, he would make all the decisions. But they would be heavily influenced by what my mom was telling him. What do we need? What do we not need?
That is the truth, and that's why I think that going through this exercise. So I just got through doing one at a charter school, and there were women that showed up, and we went like half hour over the scheduled time, but they were so engaged, and they could not believe I was having them do an actual just like back of the envelope, quick estimated, personalized budget. Each of them was working on their own budget there. And then they were working on understanding like what the income was that was coming in, what that fixed, what the fixed expenses were, and then variable expenses, right?
Nice.
Those what we talked about earlier, the streaming, the nails, the
Sure.
whatever it is. And so we said, and then so they're going through the process, right? And maybe initially they're just putting that, but they're like, oh my gosh, these are so many expenses that we're putting on.
Yes.
But you're making those choices every single
Right.
month.
And you can sort of fall into this place where you completely just sort of forget about it. I mean, I recently went through that myself where, as a family, we're like, all right, well, we've got this and that and that and that and that. How often do we watch any of these things, right? And so, but you just get into this sort of cycle sometimes. And then I think the other thing too, and I don't know if your book touches on this, but like the credit card aspect, I mean, it took me a long time to understand the impact of paying off the credit card that had the highest interest rate and that snowballing effect and just everything else. And to your point, that's where you start to find the $5, $10, $15, $30, $100 to be able to then put aside to do some of the very same things that we're talking about, like putting into a 401k.
And I'll tell you this, the more, and to your point, so on the credit card side, we have it within Shenix. There's an actual, once you become a registered user, you unlock Shenix. Yeah, there's an actual little game here. You can't just download it. You have to register. And then you get your budget. But then within Shenix, we have financial planning tools.
Great.
Now that one, unfortunately, is just in English, but I mean, that's
right.
It is what it is. But you can actually go in there. It's called My Blocks, and through My Blocks, different people will go in there for different reasons. They'll be like, my block is really the one where I want to buy a home. So let me go in there and walk myself through that to see what that looks like, right,
Sure.
with my finances. Another person will go in and be like, you know what? I'm here to find out about what this college is gonna cost us, right?
Yeah.
So they do that. And then the other one would be
Credit cards.
Credit card, like restructuring your debt. Remember that with the credit card, right? Credit card debt, we bleed a lot when it comes onto that interest.
That interest.
That interest. Oh my gosh! If you look at what I mean, it's like 20-some%.
Oh yeah.
It's horrible.
It is horrible.
It is horrible. And you're paying an interest on whatever that debt is when that money could have been put away.
I remember when credit card companies, which I think was such a big deal, when they started putting on the statements, like,
oh
if
my
you
God.
just keep paying the minimum,
Yes, you'll pay
this is how long it's gonna take you,
$57,000.
or
Yeah.
this is how much extra you're going to be paying in interest. And I think that's exactly the type of thing that sometimes we just kind of miss out on.
And we need to
they're
open our
eye-opening.
eyes.
Yeah,
We have
Yeah.
to open our eyes. That's why, as simple as a budget sounds, a lot of people know the budget is important, but they've never actually done one.
And that's the first point of awareness building, I think, right? Like,
Right, yeah.
Because
It
that's
opens
when
up
you're
your-
like, oh my gosh, I do have 8 streaming services, and I had absolutely no idea that was why. I know, not that we're going after the streaming, but that's just the example,
But even
right?
subscriptions,
Yeah,
anything that you have on your
absolutely.
phone, and just look. If you look at what you're being charged, like on your credit card, on your whatever debit card. I look at my account all the time. Like, what is this?
Yeah, I do
Do
too.
I really need this?
Yeah.
Right? And I'll tell you this right now. It's like my son, he's in college, and I look at that too. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Oh.
Do we need to cancel this? Can
Yeah.
you tell me what this is?
Yeah.
Because it's one way also of even teaching him.
Yeah.
I'm monitoring, and then in the future you should also monitor.
Right. You need to be, and you have to catch those things because, I think about like my credit card. I just found fraud. I
Mm.
went back. It was there last month too,
Oh
but
my
I didn't see it
goodness.
because they were little amounts.
Mm.
And then they started getting bigger.
Oh.
And so that's when my bank flagged it. And then I was like, oh my God, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. They closed my account,
Yeah.
got me a new card. Before my card arrived at the house, it was already flagged for fraud.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow. I
And so
mean,
I was like, how do I stop this? And she was just like, okay, we're going to send you a new one. And I was like, don't let anything transfer over. Like, just cut
just
everybody
start
off.
from
Yeah.
scratch. Yeah.
And so, but I think, if you're not on top of your finances, you're not going to catch that. And I didn't catch, the first ones were like $3,
Yeah.
$5, $7. But then once it was $60, I was like, whoa.
That caught your attention.
Yeah.
Olga, I want to go back to something that you said because I think the parents are really such an important unlock. I I think it would be too far to say that it's too late, that there's a point where it's too late to start, working on retirement. I think it's easier said that there's always an earlier time potentially to start saving for retirement. But like in my case, I mean, my parents never invested in 401ks. They have no stocks that they've worked on. Like all they have is their mattress money, essentially, right? So to speak, I think later on in life they started putting into savings accounts with a little bit more interest that paid back. But like it was all of that was me, right? But I think, and I'm sure you can say the same, and obviously for you, the same, like the parents are such an important unlock because I know now that I've got that level of awareness so that I can talk to Sophia about the importance of not building up credit card debt. We can have a credit card for her basically as she started as a little kid so she can start building a credit history so that she didn't have to wait like me until she was 20 to get her first credit card. And I just barely got the okay. Like when you get your
Yes.
credit report, they're like, you've only been building credit for 20 years. I'm like, what? I'm like, that's it? That's a ding, right? But all of those things I think are things that, you know, like I always talk about compounding impact, right? And so what kind of uptake are you seeing? I loved what you said, your example of like the parents kind of being there and doing the back of the napkin, but what's more? What can you say to those people that are here that are parents that are trying to figure out how to even engage?
Right. I mean, I have parents that are in that position as well that you just mentioned. I have talked to them a lot about shopping around, like the money under the mattress, right? I mean, now they're retired, they can't really be taking on. They rely on this fixed income, and so the one thing that I did train them to do because initially they're like, pues que le hace, let's just leave the money where it's at and let it roll over because they do a lot of CDs. Some of them do money markets. It's not my parents; they do more of the CDs. And then my dad would say like, okay, que se quede allí, let it just be there, let it renew. I'm like, wait a minute, no, you have to call around at least 3 banks.
Right. Let's get the rates. Let's see what you could get. Let's see how long they need to hold it. I just went through this exercise with my dad. He loves CDs too.
Yes, they're big on that, and that's fine. That's what they feel comfortable with.
Right.
I'm not gonna come and do anything different because you know what? I don't want them to be feeling stressed, any financial stress, because maybe they'll see some investments go up and down, and they're just not used to that.
Yeah.
But they should also not be okay with just keeping money in the bank,
Yeah.
in a checking account.
Yeah.
The only money you need to keep in the checking account is the money that you intend to spend for the month in that account. The rest of it should be in a savings account that will have at least some kind of yield as well.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay? And that should be more or less your emergency money. Okay? And we're talking about how many months? Like 3 months at least. If you can like try to save up for 3 months of your monthly expenses, your goal is to at least have 6 months. Right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that takes time. That takes time. But that's having also like more of a just emergency money. Like maybe you want to have like maybe $500 to $1,000, and then your reserve of 3 months to 6 months for those expenses. And even that money right there, if you wanted to put some of it into a CD, it's fine, but you just don't put all of it.
Right.
Right.
But any money that you have in the bank better be giving you something.
Right.
And again, that's those little things start
Right.
to
Start
add
adding up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Olga, at the end of your book, what do you want someone to do? Once they go through your book, and you have workbooks that go with it too, right?
So the book,
book is-
on the
okay.
401k, 403b is something that is specifically for people that are going to be entering the workforce, people that are in the workforce that have not really still engaged with the retirement program at work because they're intimidated, and that's fair. People don't, you're like, oh, I'm going to go do this, but I don't know how to do it.
Right.
This book is to prime you.
Okay.
It's not even, it's going to open up your eyes in terms of like, oh, that's how that works. This is done in a way that's friendly. I
Yeah.
did it specifically so it's friendly conversation. It's a friendly language. Get you to understand different parts of a retirement program quickly.
Okay.
Right now, everybody at work will have a retirement program that they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember this, but then they'll have more specifics because every retirement program does sometimes have different kinds of provisions, different kinds of things that you can do, features. And others may not have
Does
the
your
same
book
one.
explain them?
The book explains more of the core that's
Okay.
in the more of the core that you will find in all of these retirement programs. The IRA, I'm sorry, the pre-tax monies that you can put in there or the after-tax monies. So
You could put after-tax money in a 401k?
yeah, through the Roth.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Roth feature.
You've
Yeah.
talked to me about that. I'm
So
like-
you can do that, and then also just understanding more about how to go about it. So
Right.
it's an easy read. I promise you, that's what it's meant to do. It's not meant for you to go there, see, and like, oh my gosh, I still don't understand this. No, it's in layman's terms. It's simple terms because I was trying to understand. Like, okay, I'm going to have this book in language that I know works when I am in front of participants that are trying to learn about the retirement programs that we manage for these
For the
employers.
first time.
And we
Yeah.
have
Exactly.
to, you know what? I'm going to tell you this right now. I was told by one of my biggest mentors that if you cannot, if you're in the industry, financial industry, and you cannot in plain English explain to everyday people
What you
whatever
do?
the process
Yeah.
whatever the process is, or that you need them to do, or what would be good for them, then you have failed.
Yeah. Yeah. If
'Cause
you
that-
can't.
Because I don't
No.
appreciate when people come in like I'm sorry, like even within my industry, come and talk at people using the jargon.
Yeah.
I think that's very like you're not being considerate.
No,
you're gonna
and
be
you're going to scare the person more. They're going to want to
No.
use it less because they're going to be like, no le entendí.
And
Yeah.
if you want to
Yeah.
make money, you got to make sure that obviously they're making that connection.
And this book, because it's so important, it's I again, it's going to be available in Spanish because I also deal with the Spanish speaking folks. Ellos también quieren entender
Yeah.
y vamos a hacerlo en el lenguaje que ellos entienden.
I love that. I love that. Especially thinking like, you know what? Like with the removal of pensions, like this is what we have.
This is all we have.
And if we're going to be retiring in Mexico, we need some money coming in when we're down there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So the other like I said, the other thing that we do is we deliver training sessions, like I said, to charter schools where they're trying to engage the parents and trying to teach them a little bit more about what kind of finances to expect for the school year. That's elementary schools. And for high schools and colleges, we also do training sessions so that first generation folks that are going to college on this journey
Yeah.
Right.
understand what that's going to look like. And it's also in English and Spanish. We have training workbooks for each of those sessions.
I feel like you also have to have one for corporations when they're onboarding recent grads. Like, I think that this is valuable education,
It's an
especially
opportunity.
when you think about when I got handed, I've always participated in the 401k, but like I said, I took my money out for that. And I also took it out when I started one of my businesses. But
Investment.
Investments.
but I never knew what to invest in. So I just went in the one that was like, I want to retire in this year, so that's that fund.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of awareness that we still need as a community, and I think that this book will get this generation started.
Well, I know for a fact that at least what the intention also of this book was understanding that retirement program, what the features are, but then also understanding who you are as an investor.
Yeah.
And there's like a sample questionnaire
Oh, nice.
within the book that allows you to, you answer some questions, and it's based on on points. And then also it tells you like, okay, yeah, you're more of a conservative investor. And I will say this, if you're in your 20s, even in your 30s, and you're coming off as a conservative investor, that's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's because that's the kind of mindset that we grow up with.
Yeah.
Within the
Más
family, que
narrado.
no vayas a perder el
Yeah,
dinero.
yeah, yeah.
Claro.
But those are the best years of your life
To
where you're
invest,
going to be
yeah.
able to invest. You don't have to be an aggressive investor, but definitely, get some kind of growth
Sure.
portfolio going for yourself because you have so many years still
Absolutely.
to work.
Yeah.
Now, when you're getting closer to retirement, right? Now you're like 10 years away. All right. If you are in one of these target date funds that you just mentioned, right? That will
They're
automatically
called target date
Yeah.
funds.
Yes.
I just found out.
target date funds or life cycle funds, that's
Yeah.
what they're called.
Yeah. Mhm.
They are basically, it's like the year that you would closest be to being 65 and
Yeah.
getting, retiring. But what that does is that those automatically shift you to more conservative,
Yeah.
into a more conservative
As you get
portfolio.
older?
Yeah.
Yes, it's every 5 years, right? It's every
Okay.
5 years that'll shift. So they do a lot for you, and they also rebalance the money managers rebalance this portfolio, which means if you had, for example, 50% of your money is going into stock, right, and all of a sudden, like in about I don't know, a quarter or whatever it is, it just goes into like now 60%. You're a little too much in stock.
Okay.
So what they do is they go in there and they sell off some of the stock
And they rebalance.
and they
mutual
rebalance
funds,
it
or
to
they do-
bring it back
yeah.
to 50 so that you
Yeah.
have the same kind of percentage into all of the other investments, just realigning it.
Sure.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but if you're doing it on your own, which a lot of people do not do, just so you
Yeah.
know that, unless there are some people out there
Yeah.
that are, managing their own portfolio, but that's like in single digits.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Everybody else probably needs a little help.
Yeah.
Right. And that's okay.
Yeah.
The thing is to
I don't
participate.
know.
The thing is to
Yeah.
participate.
I think it's
Yeah.
important to know what you don't know. And I'm always like, no.
And
you
it's
guys
okay.
don't-
And
yeah.
it's okay. But then you also know that let me learn a little bit more. I mean,
Yeah.
you're learning not to be the expert, but maybe learning just to understand
Absolutely.
a bit more and why you're doing what you're
Right,
doing, and
right.
also to get excited about it.
Right. 100%.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things that I have learned is you learn about this and you ask questions, and that's okay because you talked about the fact that it's not enough to just get one perspective. Go to 3 different banks, try to figure it out. Like ask the questions, inquire, just get
Right.
curious, right?
Yeah.
And that because that curiosity will at least force you to sit down and look at the statements or look at this or look at that. That's where you find the fraud. That's where you realize that maybe you're over indexed and you just never really know. So start asking the questions, right? We started this conversation, Olga, by talking about the fact that you see an opportunity and you want to try to figure out how to be a part of the solution. I believe that a big part of that is the reason why you were just recently recognized by
Yes.
Chicago United as one of their business leaders of colors, which is a very it's an outstanding, obviously, recognition for Chicago community leaders. You're building a portfolio of financial support for people, which I
She
think is
has a
fantastic.
scholarship named after her
And you have
at
a
our
scholarship
alma
named
mater.
after you. Absolutely. So, what drives you? I know you've talked to us about some of the very personal stories that you've had. Whether it's your parents or your mom being an entrepreneur or whatever it might be. But what drives you to be Olga today? And then just knowing you, what are you already thinking about in terms of next steps? Because I feel like you're always thinking ahead.
She is.
Yeah.
She is.
So number one, I mean, I'll say this. I have always wanted to make a difference for other people because I would have wanted somebody to make a difference for me. I think I go back to, again, just my growing up, yes, family business, uh, and also knowing that I guess within my community, just looking around when I was growing up, it was a lot of, I mean, no offense, blue collar workers, right? My family, right?
Yeah.
And every single person that I knew had like more than 2 jobs
Yeah.
because they had to make ends meet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the big thing in our community was the business owners, right? And so my mom went from being a blue collar worker to having her business. And that was a big deal, right? That was
Absolutely.
a big deal because now, I mean, right there, at least you were working for really hard, but it was for
For
you,
yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right?
yeah.
And you were making your money, right? And so I remember my mom, I remember helping her out. We had wonderful, memories of the success of that business. And she's now retired, but she was in the business of making bridal gowns. I'm looking at all of that, and I'm noticing that all this money's coming in, but not enough is sticking around, right? Except for some of the real estate that they bought. All right, so I move forward, and I'm thinking here, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to continue this cycle? I go to
Right.
college, and I realize I love business because that's how I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I graduate from college, I go into the financial industry. Why? Because for so many years, I think just looking at how successful our business was, we weren't like those sitcoms when I was growing up, looking at like, I mean, I would say like, what is it, like Family Ties
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
and like the Brady Bunch, that these were white collar workers,
Mm-hmm.
right? They seemed so organized, like they had their money organized, all planned out for. And, and then I remember, I mean, here I grew up in Chicago, looking downtown and seeing everybody like that on occasion, I would say, because we would hardly ever go to Chicago, downtown,
Mm-hmm.
but would see how many people were going down there, making important decisions, the
Yes,
way
and
they
their
dressed,
suits.
the way they
Yeah.
dressed. And it kept on being the world that I was looking into,
Mm.
but not participating in. And that was one thing that always stuck to me, like why can't I be part of that
Yeah.
and figuring that out? But what I did know when I left college was like, well, I know where the deficiency is.
Right.
Let me go into the financial industry. Let me see what happens with me.
And a Latina in financial services, I mean, like I still feel like it's hard to find Latinas that are actually doing exactly the type of thing that you do.
Yeah, and then much more difficult to find somebody that's doing work as at the institutional level and
Right.
owns their book of business.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's even harder.
Yeah.
You usually go in and you work for somebody that owns the book of business, but you're the employee.
Yeah.
And so that was a big deal.
That's
And I think
your mom. You're like, I want my own book.
that was, I guess, I guess
Yeah.
it's not the bridal shop,
Yeah.
but it's a different kind
Yeah.
of practice
Ownership.
and helping
Yeah.
out hospitals, like I said,
Yeah.
schools, and for me, it's just been a very fulfilling journey. Um, it's been very fulfilling.
That's great.
Yes.
Well, on that note, we will make sure that you can experience Olga by making sure that we will have your link out there and the link to Sheenix so that we can continue. I mean, I think the goal is, I remember as a little girl, my dad would be like, I would say, when I was thinking of like what I wanted to be, and he would just say, lo único que quiero es que seas mejor que yo.
Mm.
And I see my children and I want the same for them.
Amazing.
And I think with this type of education, with this type of future planning, with this type of like community, I think we could do that. And every generation that comes after, que sea mejor.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Olga, I'm so proud of the work that you have accomplished. I can't wait to see what you do next because I know it's going to just continue to compound. And I know your wheels are always turning, which is actually, I feel like this whole couch right here is just constantly like, I don't know how,
You should see our lunches.
Oh,
We're
yeah,
like,
no,
you know
trust
what
me.
else we could do?
Trust me.
Yeah.
But I think, and I'm happy to see that you're getting that recognition.
Yeah, that is.
And because truly, we were talking earlier about kind of the impact of these things. And it's not just one person. It's the 10 people around you. It's the 10 people around them.
Yes.
And
Right.
that's how we obviously continue to make positive changes and impact. And we can talk to you all day, by the way, obviously, but this is probably a good point for us. So,
Yeah.
but truly, congratulations on everything.
Thank you so much.
We will make sure, obviously, that the book
Yep.
and
We'll get everything so that you're able to connect,
and
find
your
Olga, get the
award,
book.
we want them to
Yeah.
know. Anything else that you want to let people know before we sign off?
Yeah, I guess you know what, I know that it's a book, it's Sheenix, and that's a lot of the information that we put out there. But we make ourselves available also for
Great.
more of the unique, sometimes issues that we're facing. Are a lot of times people are maybe not here in the U.S. anymore for whatever reason, but there's still financial ties to the U.S. So sometimes we're helping figure out, especially if somebody has left behind a retirement account and they can't find it because the company has been sold and all of that. We've gotten calls for that, so we try to help out. But I would say start with Sheenix. It should be available. If you're south of the U.S., you should be available to you as well.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you, amiga, for coming. It's always great to see you and your smiling
is.
face.
Yes.
And join us next time on Corporate Cafecito.
Hasta luego.